Wow. Thank you so much, RetroBot Dev. Uh, I have been going for a half hour with no audio. Son of a. Oh. Wow. Wow. Okay. Egg on my face. I feel really, really dumb now. Thank you very much for telling me that. Wow. Yep. Newbie streamer. Go figure. I have been talking straight through for a half hour with no audio. Wonder if we can use AI to lip read and then go back in and add the stuff. Wow. Yeah. Thank you. It just kind of makes me want to hang my head and cry and just go, yeah, I'm an idiot. But uh, well, it's a good thing that I'm going to be cutting all this up into voiceovers later. So I need to. Oh, excuse me. Okay, well, talking to nothing. Next time, turn up volume. Make sure that I can hear myself. Yep. Okay. Now we have audio. Okay. So let's go back here. What we're doing, and in case need a recap of the last half hour, we basically started drawing in these tiles orientation, so then we can edit in a tile editor. So we have here's our orientation. This is up, and then we can pick what we want to draw onto this these tiles over here. These will probably get. I'll probably change what these are, but we'll come back to it. Wait, scene. Okay. There's a tile library, and probably end up getting rid of the JSON inspector. Okay, so let's go back over here. Wow. Now I can't get out of my head that I messed up. Okay, let's go back here and focus. Let's look at grid container. We need these buttons, so we need to be in this container. So this is our tile preview. Let's put the script on this VBox, because everything we're going to do is going to be in this VBox. So let's add this script here. Let's call this the tile map editor. There you go. Okay, so let's add this, and tile editor, tile map editor. Yep, we'll create that script. Okay. Label we don't need. We do need all these tiles. Okay, so we will need these. We will need the buttons. Okay. Okay, so we got all this. And let's see here. I don't really need to give this a class name, but what we need to do is we need to find out if... Okay, so we've got our references here. We need to know what are we drawing. So we called this... What did we call these buttons again? We called these tile draw... What was it again? Tile draw type. Okay. So current, yeah, it's current tile. Let's stick with this other naming convention. So current tile, TILE, current tile type. And do we want to give this just an actual enum, or do we want to give it a or just give it a number? I'm trying to think here because we need our terrain. So our terrains are going to be 0 for floor, 1 for wall. So if this is going to be anything but wall, it's going to have a 0 for floor. So we should probably just do a... Should we have a separate value for floor and separate value for what the contents of the floor are? I think that's going to get overcomplicated. Let's just give it a value. Let's give it an integer value. And we're going to set it as 0 by default. That's going to be our floor. So let's just give ourselves a quick little 0 is floor. We're going to say 1 is wall. We're going to say 2 is the monster spawn. Wow, typing hard. 3 is going to be our chest spawn, and 4 is going to be our trap. Okay, so we're going to give these our numbers. So when we select them from this, we can say, okay, if we press these buttons, we're going to give it this value. Okay, so let's go back into our script and let's do that. And let's see here. So we need a function, and we need the ready function. We need to do all of these. We need to connect. So you know what? Let's just put pass right here for right now. Function set button, not set button, set current tile. And then we want to do type, and that's an int. Do we want to return? No, we don't want to return. We'll just do a void. And then we can just do current tile type equals, what did I say? Type, was it? Type. Okay. Okay, and then so what we can do here is when we say take floor button, now we do this, dot connect. Oops, we got to add the signal name, pressed dot connect. And then we can do set current tile dot bind, and we're going to set it as 0 because it's a floor. And then we can just kind of here, we'll just copy this, and we do wall button pressed, and that'll be a 1. We can do a, what's the next one? Monster button, that is a 2. And then we have a chest button, that is going to be a 3. And then we can do our last one is a trap button, and that is 4. Okay, so now every time we press one of these buttons, we're going to set our current tile type to that. And then what we need to do is then we need to figure out which grid that we're going to click on. And let's see here. Okay. So then do we do can we connect to a signal on color rect, because it is a control node, so we could probably do a mouse over. Let me think about that. So what we could do a mouse over, and then we can set each of these to have a shared script where it contains what it is, and then it has the interaction with the mouse, and then we can pull in the type from this. I think that might be the best bet. So we come in here, we could do attach a script here. We can just call this a tile. Create, and then we can do a function ready, and then we can do on, is it mouse over, mouse enter. Yeah, is it on mouse enter? Gotta remember now. Mouse, here we go. Get mouse position, mouse notification, mouse enter. Okay. So if we do mouse enter dot connect, then we can listen for a press. Oh, mouse. Okay, that is not a signal. We need a signal. What is the signal for mouse over? I thought it was just mouse over. Function get mouse position. Let's go back to here. Let's search for mouse over. Scroll bar, mouse input. Input events, mouse over the control. If event, mouse button pressed. Okay. Okay, so if we want to do this, this function is control GUI input. Use it, override your control. So let's look at the GUI input. What do we get here in the GUI input? If event is mouse button, if event index, mouse button left, and event pressed, I have been clicked. Okay, so let's try this. Let's see what this works. Make custom tooltip. That might be useful. But let's try this, and let's see what we can do here with this. So if we go here, let's just do it pass for right now. I have been clicked. Okay, so if we do this, we get click. I have been clicked. Okay, so that works there. But then if I attach tile to this one, we need to say I have been clicked, and this needs a var. It needs a number. So let's set an export. How do we want to do this? We want to do the tile. The tile needs to have a value. We need to send the value back to the actual tile that we're going to contain here in this map edit. So this is going to be the actual where this tile itself is stored. The entire tile. This is going to be. These should actually be called cells. Tile cell. Yeah, whatever. I've already named them this. Okay, so then in tile here, we need a function. We need, let's do a, do we want to do an export so we can give it an ID, or do we want to give it a, well, let's just put a value in for right now. Value, colon, int equals 0 right now, because they're all going to default to floor. I've been clicked. Let's give it a, I've been clicked, and then we want to do a, how do we print the name again? It's name. Or is it plus name? It's plus name. Okay. So then if we run that, that should give us tile 0, tile 1. Perfect. Okay. So then, okay. So then what we can do here is then we can get whatever this is. So if I bring this into our onReady, and where it's been pushed, we can say the value equals tile map editor dot current tile, what did I call it again? Current tile type. Copy. Current tile type. Okay. So we save that, and then we'll just copy here. I've been set to plus, and then we're going to do a string of the value. Okay, so let's just try this. So right now, if we're a chest, set to 3, trap, tile 1 has been set to 4. Okay, so then what we just need to do is we need to change the color of the cell, so then we know that it's been set for either a trap or a chest or whatever it is that we're building. Okay, so let's do function. Let's call it set color. And I know I can use probably setters and stuff like that. I'm not as familiar with that, so I don't know I don't have the context for how to use setters properly in the top of my head, but I probably could just do that. So every time the value gets changed, then we can set the color. The value is int. Okay, and then that is going to be a void. And then we're going to do itself. This is a color rec, so we can do color equals color. Oh wait, we need to do a match. Okay, so let's do a match here. Match, and we want a match on value. Okay, and then if let's say 0, color equals color white. We want to use white? Yeah, let's use white. We can just use color picker. That's fine. We'll just set for white. Enter. Yep, there we go. If it's a 1, we're going to set the color. Oops, color equals. And then we can just do color again. And our walls, let's set them. I think we did like a bluish before. So let's just do blue. You know what? Let's make it easy. We'll just make it black, because then we can quickly see, black, white, and then we can use the other colors to differentiate with the other 2 types of things. So let's do that. So 2 is a monster spawn. So let's set that color right to red. That looks like a good shade of red. Okay. And then 3 is our treasure chest. So let's set that to a gold. Like a golden color. Yeah, like that. That works. Okay. And then 4, this is our trap color. So let's set our traps. We haven't used blue. We haven't used green. Let's use, or we did use, yeah, let's use blue. Let's use teal. Yeah, teal. There we go. Okay. So then based on that, we're going to change this match value. We're going to set the color. What are you talking about here? Did I set up my match wrong? Oh. I don't want to use value. Okay, let's use underscore. Let's use a local value. Oh, I don't even need the passive because we're going to change this, so we don't even need that. Okay. Function set color. Function signature doesn't match the parent. Parent signature is set color to void. Oh, set color is a reserved name. That's why. Okay. Okay, so we do this. Let's call the set color right here. Set square color. Save. Okay. So now if we go in and look at this, we say we want to do a wall. We can boom. Boom, wall. If it's a floor, if it's a monster, it's going to turn red. Chest will be this. Trap will be blue. Okay, so we got that. Okay, perfect. Let's add in all these tiles. You know what? Instead of just doing that, we can just come down here. Just delete those. This will be a lot faster. And we just duplicate these until we have all of them. There we go. Save. Okay, and then toggle the plugin. Now we come in here, we can just do our walls. We can draw wall. Okay. Oh, right. Right. Because this, we need the @tool script, and in here we also need the @tool script, or else this won't work. Okay. Do I have to redo the thing? Let's find out. Yep. Project, reload it. Okay. So now if we come in here, we want to draw our walls. There we go. Now we can draw our walls. Boom, 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 boom. Monster. Okay. So now we've got our ability to draw. We've got that stuff in there. Let's see what else we can do. Okay. So let's go back over here. We did say that we want to reserve these. So these can never be, what's it called? Do we want to add in that stupid ability check? Yeah, we might as well. Let's make this kind of semi-proper here. So if we come into tile edit here, and do we want to just have a warning check that says, hey, you're an idiot, you've built the tile wrong? Or do we want to just plain prevent these? I think these ones should be locked. So these ones should never have any other value. So let's see, what can we do to prevent that? Tile 1, tile 2. So we want to secure these so they never get edited. Okay, so if it's clicked here, oh, can we get a warning label? Maybe we should do, no. So if this is event pressed, boom, okay, and then if name equals, what do we call this, tile 1 2 equals tile 1, or tile 2 print cannot set entrance tiles, cannot change, how about cannot change instance tile. Let's do a print error, cannot change entrance tiles, and then return. Okay, so then those ones should never change. Okay, so then if we run this again, let's just double check here, say we want to set it to a wall, that goes to a wall. Error, you can't set entrance tiles, but we can set the rest of these. Okay, so that prevents those entrance tiles from being edited, period. Okay, so we've got that done. Project settings, what does it do when we try to set them here? Okay, it gives us an error right here in this. Okay, so we got that. We've got this ability to do that. We need to now take and save these tiles. We've got the tiles, we can draw them. We've got weights. Encounter tables, we're going to come back and change that later, but let's make it so that we can actually save this stuff. And then we can look at the tile library. I think I'm just going to ditch this JSON inspector because I don't really need that. Okay. Oh, before we do that, we need to build an actual resource. We need to build the resource that we're going to save this stuff to. And so let's see here. What do we got? Do we want to make that in the tile editor? We need the resource to be because this is the actual editor itself. Let's make a new folder, and we're just going to call this the tiles folder. Okay, and inside we're going to create a new script, and this is going to be what do we want to call it? We're going to just call it tile, base tile. Let's call it tile data. Tile data. There we go. This is going to actually be a resource. Okay, we're going to be a resource file, create. Okay, and then let's come back over here. What do we have? So we made it so we can do these. We've got an orientation marker, we got a trap marker, we got those. Okay, explorable edges. I think we're going to do that via code. But we need to store this information. We need to store what values things are set at. So let's see. Let's go back. Whoops, that's the wrong button. There we go. Let's see here. Let's do extends resource. Let's do a class name tile data. Okay. Okay, so that's a reserved name. So title data. Okay, we'll just call it tile then. That's fine. Tile. Okay, so what we need in here, we need, do I still have my other one? Let me open up my other one. I'm trying to remember how I stored these before, because I did do it with JSON before. I still kind of want to do it roughly the same way, but not quite. So if I go here, we go into our tile. I stored these as a scene before. So I drew them as a scene, and then I just kept the array, I think it was. Yeah, so I just used a cell data array. So let's do that. Let's keep this. Okay. So let's use the cell data array. Okay. And then we're going to set these all by default to 0, 0, 0. So let's just copy this. So then by default, they are all floor tiles. Okay, save. Okay, so now this is our tile, and then we can set all of these what they are. We also need, that's the cell tile data. We also have a variable tile ID. And that's going to be a string. By default, it's nothing. Let's see, what else do we have in our editor? We've got a tile ID. We have an encounter table, a special element. We have a weight. So let's go back over here. Var encounter. And that is going to be a... What do we want to store that as? Do we want to store that as a string? Do we want to store that as an enum? That's a good question. How do we want to store that? We want to store it as a... For now, let's just do it as an int. I feel like we're going to come back here. Var special, SBECIAL. This is going to be like our boss encounters and stuff like that. I feel like we're going to come back to these. We're going to probably make an enum, a global enum, so then we can set like boss encounter or feral or orc or whatever we're going to use for that. So let's see. What else do we have here? Oops. We don't need, I don't think I need this anymore. Get cell. Yeah, we don't need that anymore. Let me see here. 1 second here. I have, nope, that's a spam call. Let's get rid of that. Don't need to buy a new cell phone. Okay, let's see here. So we don't really need this because what I was doing before was the scenes in this was I would actually draw the tile in each of these things. I would draw the tile and then read the terrain data from the drawn tile into the game that I had built. But because we're not going to store it that way, we're going to store this as pure data in the resource file. We don't need that extra, convert it back into the array and then send the array off, because we're just going to store it this way, period. Okay, but yeah, okay, we'll do that. I'm just trying to think, because we want to make sure when we read in the data that we're only sending 0 and 1 to the terrain data, and we're not sending 2, 3, 4 to the terrain data, because there won't be a terrain data for that. Or maybe there will be, because if I'm thinking about the D&D adventure game, there is a monster spawner icon on the tile. I know you have to have that to tell a player where to put monsters, but do you want that for players to know? For right now, traps might be useful to have, but we can set single tiles for that. We don't need a terrain data for tiles or for that stuff, because those are single tiles. So we can just set single tiles. Okay, so let's move on then. Let's move on. We got tile ID, encounter, special. We need a scene override if there is one. I don't think there will be. Wait. We definitely want the wait. I feel like I want to keep this one as a float. And by default, it would be 5. Var scene override. Helps if I spell override properly, and that's going to be a string. And by default, nothing. Okay, and then what else do we have on here? We need to store the notes. If there's any special notes, we need to store the notes. So, and var notes, and that's also going to be a string. Is there something bigger than a string? Do they have something like a text? Oops, didn't mean to put a colon there. Does Godot have a text? I don't remember. Let's look at that's environment variables. I don't want environment variables. I want actual variable. Variable types. Environmental variables. Nope. Trying to remember. Global scope, enumerations. Variant types. Here we go. What we got here? Array, bool, packed array, vector, string name. What's the difference between string and string name? String name are immutable strings for general purpose representation of unique names. Okay. Yeah, I guess it'll be just string then. Is there a limit to the size of a string? Does not look like it. Okay. Yep. Okay, so we've got these. So what we can do then is when we set it, we can save all of this information. I want to change this notes field. Needs to be bigger. Where's notes? Save button, notes label, notes field. Here we go. Where's our transform? Let's make it bigger. There we go. Okay, save that. Project setting. Okay, so come in here. Why is that not expanding? Work in here. Save project. Let's turn it off. Turn it back on. It's very weird that it's not, for some reason, that notes field is not expanding. Okay, let's go back in and just double check our button container. That's working because those are showing up. The warning label showing up. Let's make this one maybe larger. Container sizing. Let's do, fill. So that is there. It's set to fully expand. Oh, I wonder if our bigger, this needs to be bigger. This needs to, let's do center, and then let's let it, let's just set it for the full rect. There we go. Save that. Let's double check that now. There we go. That gives us the full thing. Okay, perfect. There. Okay, so we got the tool. Now what we need to do is we need to take all this information that we're filling in. We need to save it to a scene. Okay, so let's go back over here. We have all this. This is all going to be here. So we can set all these variables, and then we need to save it to a scene here in this tiles folder. Okay. Okay, so we have a tile type. We've got all that. Let's see, what do we need to make this work? So let's do... This is the builder itself. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to create and save it because we have all these values. We also need tile map edit. Do we have that in here? We don't. Oh, actually, you know what we need first? We need in here... We also need that array. So let's go back to tile data. Let's take this array. We're going to need that in this because we need to keep track of everything that's in the current array. So let's add that in here. We got the type, that's fine. Let's add in the cell data. Okay. And then what I need to do is we need a signal saying that the cell has been updated. Just trying to think of how we want to do this. So we want to do it where when we click on a cell, we update this. Yeah, I think we should do that. So when we click on the cell, we'll send the signal, we'll set all the stuff here, its value, and then we can just do update here and we can go through and get all the values. So let's do a signal. Do we want signal down or signal up? That's the question. I think we want signal. I think we read down and we signal up. Is that the... Oh, God. Now I'm trying to remember what that... I'm trying to remember how that worked again. How the best practice for that is. So here, we're gonna do a signal here. We're going to do a signal. SIG, NAL, updated. Okay. And then what we'll do, copy. And then if this gets updated, I've been set to here, we can do updated.emit. Oops, .emit. Okay. And then so in here, do we want to just update the single cell? Or do we want to do... Because we want to attach each of these to one of these. So then when this tile emits it's been updated, we need to connect to an update process. Set current tile. Okay, so that's the current tile type. That changes our drawing tool. Okay, and then this will be a function we want to update array. Update, let's make it a little bit more descriptive. Update tile array. Okay, void. And then when we get an update signal, we're just going to go through, I think we're just going to go through every tile that's in this grid array. Do we need each of these individual tiles like this? I don't think we do. Okay, yeah, we don't need all of these. So we can get rid of those. We just need the actual grid container. So we just need the grid container. Okay. And then what we can do here is we can do force child in grid container dot get children. Child.connect, child.updated.connect, and then we need to do update tile array. Okay. So then whenever those update, it'll call this update tile array. Tile array we'll want to go through our grid, so we want to do for basically the same thing for child and grid container. For child and grid container, get children. And then for each child, we want to do, let's set our X and Y. How do we want to do this? X0, let's do :int, Y :int equals 0. Gotta put far in front, dummy me. Okay. So then when we go through each of these, we're going to be 0, 0 is our first one. So we want to populate our array. So our cell data, and we want to do X, we want to do Y, X. Okay, so we want to keep the Y's first. We're going to go through all of these left to right. So we're going to increase X each time, then add one Y. All 4 X's, add a Y. Okay, so when we do that, we need to go through and do, so our cell data, Y. So we want to do X here, and then Y. XY equals child.value. Okay. And then we want to do X plus 1. And then if X equals, okay, so it's going to be 0, 1, 2, 3. And then we do X plus 1. So if it equals 4, then what we're going to do is we're going to change this. We're going to say X equals 0 and Y plus equals 1. Okay. Yep. And then that's our loop. And then when we're all done our loop, let's do a print of our cell data. Okay. So let's see if this works the way I think it will be. So if I say a wall, boom, one wall. Yep. I think I got this backwards. So our array is 1, 1, 1. This is all the Y's. Okay, so I think I got that backwards. So let's swap this around. YX. Let's check this again. Let's set a wall. So if I set this as all X's, then it should be last row, last row, last row, last row. Yes. Okay. Then if I do this, it should all be ones. Okay, perfect. Okay. So now we've got that, and then we can set monsters here. We can set a chest, set a trap over there. Okay. So we got that. Okay, so that's good. Our tiles, really simple. Let's save this. Let's make sure that this is working on this. And it's not. Why is this not working? That's a tool. That's a tool. This is a tool. Why is this not? What we got wrong here? Don't need that open anymore. Don't need... Oh, so why is it not working this way? Okay, so right now we're all zeros. Wall. Okay. 1, 1. Why didn't that update? Oh, it did. It just, for some reason, wasn't scrolling. Okay. 1 0 0 0 0. Yeah. Okay. For some reason, my output window wasn't scrolling. Okay, that was dumb of me. Okay, so this works. We can set it in the wall. We can set it in our monsters. We can set it in our chests. We can set our traps. We won't allow us to edit that. Perfectly fine. You know, four-way intersection. Remove that stuff. Okay, so we got all that. That works good. Okay. Now we need the ID that we want to save it as. This we can set. So, okay. So save the library and create a new tile. Okay. And if we do create a new tile, this should just reset everything to new. So let's make that first, because then that'll wipe out all this stuff. So let's go back over here. Let's go into our script for this. Create a new tile. Save button disabled. New button. New button pressed. Connect. I'm just going to call it a reset function, because all I'm going to do is just reset everything that's currently built. Function reset. Void. Okay, so we need to just change everything back here to 0. So we need to do value equals blank. What else do we need? We need, because we need value dot, is it value? Is it text? What is it again? Text. There we go. Counter table option dot, is it value? We can just do clear. We can do, I can't remember what these are. I think it might be selected. Selected, there we go. Equals 0. We're going to do the same thing for the special. Dot selected equals 0. Okay, so I'll set those back to nothing. H slider. You're going to set the H slider dot value. It's going to be back to 5, because that's our default. Weight description. That will just get updated because we're going to make the script, so it updates that. Scene value is going to be, oops, right here. Scene value dot text is going to equal blank. Notes field is going to be blanked. Oops. Okay. Notes field, warning label. We're going to put the save button back to disabled. Actually, I don't think we need to. Yeah, we'll put it back to disable just to be safe. Yeah. Okay, so we've got that blanks out the menu. Now we got to go through and clear out all the tile data. So if we go back into here, tile map editor, we've got the cell data. We've got this already. Here's our function ready, binding. Let's do a function here of function reset tiles. Okay. And then we can just do this. We can do for child. Here we go. For child and child container. And then what we can do in there is we can do child.value equals 0. And then we don't have to do anything more, because what that's going to do is then that's going to signal back saying, hey, I've changed my value. Update it. That's going to update our tile array. That's going to set that all to zeros. So we shouldn't need to do anything else there. Now we just need to call this function here, the reset tiles. This is tile map editor. So let's come back up here. What do we call it? Do we call it tile map editor? Or do we not bring in a reference to it? We did not bring in a reference to it. So let's bring that in. Tile map editor dot reset tiles. Okay, so we've got this. Now if we hit new button, that should reset everything. Let's make sure that works. Create new tile. So nothing here. If we type in here, if we type in here, if we type in here, we set this here. Okay, so that resets all that. Okay, let's make sure that if we do this, and then just for S and Gs. Okay, so this does not look like it reset. Okay, so let's figure out why that did not reset. So it did reset, we just didn't call the new draw function. Because when we manually set the value in the tile, we didn't tell the tile to redraw. Okay, let's go back into the tile itself. And so here, this is where we need that setter thing. Format. Gotta remember how to use the set. Oh God. Okay, just jump over here. Godot setter. Try and remember exactly the format, because this is going to be very useful for us. So a setter function. Let's see. So we got health value, and then we can do colon, and then we can just do the change. Okay, so let's do this. Let's go back into our thing. We got value int, and then we do colon, and we can set value. I'm just going to call this v, set v. So then what we need to do here is set value, and then we can do set square color. Okay. And then v value equals v. Is that how we do this again? What's my format here? Function set score. So set score, new value, score equals new value, then update. So score set equals, I want to run it as a function. Oh, because I need to put it on the new line. Set v. There we go. Okay. So then if I'm doing that, I don't need this anymore, because then when I change the value, that should update. So let's try this, make sure it works. So if I do a monster, boom, boom, create new top. There we go. Okay. So like I said before, I've really needed that setter function, and I should have had that in there at the beginning, but yeah, you live and you learn, right? Okay, so let's get me some water here. Okay, 11:30. Okay, so we got that. We can draw the tiles. Now we need to actually save it. So we have the array. We need to save that to the resource. Okay, so let's save that into our resource. This, of course, does not work because you have to toggle that stupid thing. But now if we do boom, 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 new tile, perfect. Okay. Let's go back in here. We need to save the resource. So let's see. What do we need? We need a... We need to create a new tile, which we gave this as a tile data, so tile. Okay, so we gave it a class name. So we come back in here. We need a var tile, calling tile data. Oh wait, how do we do this again? Tile data equals tile data dot new, like that. Okay. You know, we only need this when we're saving, so let's take that out here. Let's do process. Let's make a function save tile. We should have an error check on this, but I'm just going to do void for right now. We're going to make a var tile equals tile data dot new. We need to then load the array into the save. Hold on, how do we do this again? We set the tile dot cell. God, what was it again? Cell data. Cell data equals, we need the, where's our cell data? We're saving the cell data in the tile editor. Yes, there it is. So tile map editor equals tile map editor dot cell data. Okay, so we can set that way. That sets that. We need to do tile dot, what are the other fields here? We have tile data. We need these ones, so let's just copy these over. Come back in here. I'm just going to paste these down here. Tile underscore ID equals tile ID is going to equal our tile builder tile ID value. Okay. Dot text. Okay. And then we need tile dot encounter. Tile dot encounter equals, what did we call it up here? Encounter table option dot selected. Okay. And then we're going to do the same thing here. Tile dot special equals special table dot selected. Okay. So we've got those. Tile dot weight equals weight. Is it just, I think it's just weight because that's an H slider and I don't think it's dot value. I think it's just, oh no, this is H slider. Okay. Change this. This is our H slider dot value. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that saves that. Tile dot scene override is going to equal our scene. What did we call it up here? Did we call it override? We called it scene. We just called it scene value. Okay. Scene value dot text. Okay. And then notes dot notes is going to equal our notes. What do we call it up here? Notes field. Oh, not equals notes field dot text. Okay. Is it not dot text notes field? What? I declared something somewhere? Where did I declare something? Tile.notes equals notes field. Oh. For some reason my thing got scrolled to the right. Okay. Okay, so we got those. Now we need to actually push it to the... So we've set the values. We've created the object. Now we need to save the tile to an actual file. So we need to use a resource, R-A-S-O-U-R, saver, resource saver, and then we need to save it, and we need to send it to the resource, which is going to be the tile name. So let's use tile ID. So we want to use that, comma, path is going to be our tiles path. Okay. And then flags. I don't think we need to set any flags, so we can just leave that like that. Okay, what are we missing here? Invalid argument for save function. It should be a resource, but it's a string. Oh, because this needs to be tile. How is that not... Tile. Okay, that's a resource. Argument 1 should be resource, but it is tile data. But tile data is a resource. It extends resource, right? Yeah, it extends resource. We're trying to save the tile. We have the path. I also have the path wrong because I need this to be plus, this needs to be this right here. Because we want to save that plus dot .tres. Okay, so we want that. But this part is wrong right here. This, it's not liking our local variable tile. Why is it not liking our local variable tile? Maybe I'm using resource saver wrong. Let's go back over here. Let's look up. Oops. Resource saver. Okay, we want to save it as a .tres file. Yep. Let's use some examples here. Error. Oh, so we want to use error instead of error save. Okay. So this is actually a... So it's going to return an error. Do we just run save? Boy, now I'm getting myself confused. Okay, let's see what else we can do. So apparently it doesn't like this because it thinks it's not a resource. Type equals unknown. It's defined here. It's a tile data. Class tile data. It's an object. Tile set. Yeah, of course it's going to give me an error here. I mean, if I just did tile data. Yeah, no, it's not going to like that. I didn't think so. So if I do an error, equals resource saver.save, then I send the tile. Because we did tile data new right here. But it is a resource. Do we just get rid of the class name? Is that all we need to do and they'll be happy? And then bring in, where is it? Tile data. Tile data save. Tile data save. Okay, so if we do our tile is a resource, is tile data save dot new. Can we do that? Okay, so if I do that, do it that way, then we can check to see if there's an error. So if error does not equal, is it okay? I think it's okay is how they do it, like that. Print file save error. Okay, so we got this, we got save tile. We do not have the save button connected, so we want to do that. Disabled equals true. Copy. We'll put in the connect here. Save button dot pressed dot connect, and that's going to be the save button, save tile. Okay, so we'll save that. It'll be disabled, so then we can only save it when it's valid. I'll call this. After this is done, if that else, let's not erase it. I was thinking maybe we want to erase it so we can start building a new tile, but let's try that first. Let's make sure, let's just make some walls here. We're not going to set any of this. This is fine. We're just going to call it hallway. Okay. And if I hit save the library, invalid. Assignment of property or key notes with a value of text edit. Okay, so notes field dot, I think it's just text. There we go. Save. Okay, F8, F6. Okay, so let's build this again. We'll build a hallway. We'll call it hallway. We'll hit save. Okay, So allegedly that's saved. I didn't get anything here. So let's go over here. Tiles. Hey, hallway scene. If we bring this up, we double click on the resource over here. We got a resource. It doesn't show us any of the information about it. So let's show file manager. Let's look at the file. Open with Notepad. Okay, so that did not work at all. Okay. Delete that. Okay. That did not work. Okay. Okay, let's go back up here. Let's get rid of this. I don't want to do it that way. I want this to be class name tile. I want that to be tile. Okay. And then so this, if our tile equals tile dot new. Oh, is that what I did? Okay. Try this one more time. I think I see what I did wrong. Call it hallway. Okay, hit save. Save the library. We see hallway here. Okay, we have a name. We have... That's the path. How do I edit the... Okay, so we have the script. We have the path. Name. Did we do an export var name? Is that why that's there? No? Okay. Let's load this up in the file manager again. Let's take a look here. Edit with Notepad. Ah, that still didn't do it right. Okay. Oh, still wrong. Delete. Okay. Okay. I'm going to run to the bathroom real quick. Okay. I think I'm just being stupid. I think I figured it out. I think these in the tile data, I think these all need to be exports. I think that's the problem. I need these all to be exports. Because if they're not exports, I can't save them in an editable way. Okay, so if I save that there, and we go back into our tile builder, we've run this. Now if we set the walls like this, call it hallway, and then hit save. Okay, then that should create hallway. There we go. 0 encounter, 0 wait. We have our array. We can see. Okay. Yep. I just being an idiot and forgot that I need to set those as exports in a resource file. That was dumb of me. Okay. Okay. So now what we have project settings. Re-enable this. There we go. We have a tile editor. We can make our tiles. We can name them. We've created hallway. We can just call this one, why don't we call this entrance room or start room? Let's call it entrance. Call it entrance. There we go. We got to update this so we can say what level weight we have, but let's just set this as common and save the library. There we go. We have an entrance. If we come over here, entrance, our weight is 1, our hallway weight is 5. Great. Perfect. Okay, so now we have our editor working. We have the weight adjustment. These 3 fields don't do anything yet, but at least now we can create tiles. I also realized I never hit start recording. Oh well. I am all kinds of technological failure today. This is great. Okay, so let's see here. No, let's just hit start recording now so I don't lose anything. There it goes. Okay. Okay, so we can create our tiles. So let's start with actually creating some stuff. We have the entrance, which is all 4 white. We have a hallway, which has the 4 sides. So we're going to go back here. We're going to look at, if you remember here, I'm just going to quickly swap back over here to talking head for a moment. If you remember, we have the graph paper gauntlet. I have some tiles. I'm going to build those right now in the editor. So, okay, so let's take a look here. So we got the hallway. We can do a, let's see here. Let's create a new tile. We have the 4-way intersection. So let's do that. 4-way intersection, just like this. We can just call this 4-way. 4-way, save it. Okay, let's do a T intersection. So we do it this way. We can call this a T intersection. Okay, save that to the library. Okay, we have T intersection. We have the hallway. How about let's add some corners. So this will be, because this is orientation, we'll call this a right corner. Right corner, save that, and then let's black that out, and let's do floor over here. This will be our left corner. Okay, we had the straightaway, we have the corners, we have the T. Let's not do a dead end right now, because dead ends could lead to some things we don't want to have happen. We can do an actual, this would be a corner hallway, actually. Yeah, this would be a corner hallway. Let's do a left room corner. And then what we can do here is we can just do that. There we go. Left room corner. And let's do the same thing over here. And this will be our right room corner. Okay. We can also do, where's our floor? That is a, what would we call that? It would be a T-wall, maybe, or far wall. Yeah, let's just call it a far wall, because it's, whoops, far wall. There we go. So that's the far wall over there. We'll save that. And then we can do a left wall and right wall. So let's put these down here, wall. This will be the left wall. Okay, and then we'll do the same thing over on this side, and this will be our right wall. Okay, right wall. Save. Okay, so look, we've already got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We have 11 tiles already. We spent a couple hours making this tool, but now we just created 11 tiles in a heartbeat. We'll probably come back in here and edit them so that we can then add in some monster spawning and stuff like that. That's what the goal of this tile library is going to be. We're going to be able to look at them, import them. But I want to be able to start being able to draw the tiles, and let's start putting them onto a game board. So let's move on to that. I think I got about another let's do another half hour, and then I'm gonna end the stream for today. I already had a lot of technical failures of no audio for the first 30 minutes and then forgetting to record it. So okay, so let's go over here. Let's build a new scene. 2D, let's build new scene. We're going to call this let's call it the game board. Because it's, there we go. 2D scene, a game board. Okay, on the game board, we're going to need our dungeon tile map. Okay, and then this is going to be where we draw all of our tile data. So let's first be able to, where do I want to put stuff? Game board is going to be our scene container. The dungeon tile map is our map. And then we want to do, I'm just trying to wrap my head around where do I want to store information between the game manager and the game board itself. So if I think about it, I want to take, I think the game board I want to store, if I think of it as like a physical game, I want to store where the pieces are, and then the actual game logic will be in the game manager. So in here we want to have our script so that we can keep track of what tiles, not necessarily what tiles have been placed, but what tiles have been created in our terrain set for the dungeon tile map. So let me get this up here. So let's add a script into this. We're going to call that our game board. You know what? Let's put this into a different new folder. Core components. Okay, and that'll be our game board. So let's create that. We're going to need a reference to this. Okay, let's see here. So we also, for testing right now, because I don't have the other stuff, let's add in an export of var tile stack. That's going to be an array of tile data. Oops, wrong thing. Array of tile. Not tile data, tile. Okay. And by default, we'll just give it a empty array. Okay. And then we need our function ready. And then what we need to do is we need to load in the entrance tile. So let's put this in here. Load in entrance tile and place at 0, 0. Okay. So we're going to keep track of the board, and these are all 8x8 cells. So we have to keep that in mind of how we're thinking about it, because all of my assets, the characters are all 8x8 sprites. The tiles in the tile set are all 8x8. So we're going to think of it that way, but we're also going to have it so we can adjust the camera to zoom in and out. We're going to scale it. But our base logic that we need to think of is an 8x8. So we need to load in our entrance cell. So we need that entrance tile. So we're going to need that up here. Okay, so we're going to need that because what we need to do is we need to read that data, because we could change this at any time. Should we make this as an export? If we do multiple maps, if we say, like this one, you're escaping a prison cell in the Underdark, something weird like that. Do we want to have a different entrance tile because then you could be like in a jail cell and then you have to escape? So maybe we want to put this as an export instead of. Yeah, I think we want to do that. I think we're going to put it as an export because we're not doing a quest line. Let's go back to our scope. Let's look at our scope. What do we define our scope as? So we have no overarching story. There's no level advancements. We have a single tile set. Tile stack game. Yeah, so what do we want to do? Do we want to have... We have no overarching story, but are we going to have independent stories? That's going to be a good key question. Let's go back here. What do we have for our time frame? Right now we're working on foundation design, movement spawning turns. We don't really have... We have the complete run here, and then in between we have the town shop. Yeah, let's just do a blank entrance tile for right now. Probably we'll decorate it somehow with stairs or some other type of decoration to show, hey, we've come into the dungeon. But yeah, let's just do a standard entrance tile for right now. Okay, so that works fine. What we need to do is we need to read in the entrance tile, and we need to get all that value and load it into the dungeon tile map. So let me pull up my other thing here, so I'm trying to remember the exact way that we can read into tile maps. Game board. Okay. So here's our dungeon tile map on ready. Tiles, draw. Okay. For tile, let's add that. A-star grid, we don't need to worry about that yet. Get use cells, we don't need to worry about that yet. Draw terrain from array. Okay, so we need this function right here. Okay, so let's grab this here. So we're going to copy this over, and we're going to load that in here. Okay, so what this is going to do is this is going to take our array. We're going to store the entire game board as a two-dimensional array. And then when we add a new tile to it, we're going to update the array, and then we're going to redraw the entire board. So basically what this is, here's our data is going to be, what the array is, the game board itself. This is going to be a grid offset. So then as we add the tile, remember we're going to store them at, we're going to store the individual cells. We're going to store, 0, 1, 2, 3. And then if it's the tile to the right that we need to place, it's going to be 4. It's going to be 4, 5, 6, 7, right? Yeah, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we need to store the offset, and that's a vector 2i. So then we're not locked into the actual pixel depth. We're locked into our game logic board. And then so we just circle through. We check the terrain ID. If it doesn't have a terrain ID, we just kind of ignore it. And then we set the terrain ID based on the grid location. So we need now, so that will draw it, we need to load it into the actual data array. So let's go back over to our other one here. And let's see here. We've done, this is our rotation. We'll come back to that in a second. So here's our make 2D array. Okay. So let's copy this over. And we'll bring that back over into this program. Let's put that up here actually before. Okay. So we'll make a 2D array. So let's do that at the beginning. So let's make 2D array. And what this is going to do is we need to define our width and height. And this is going to be in the number of cells. So let's think of, we got 4 by 4 tiles. So just for just for purposes of starting, let's do let's just do a 4x4 grid. So if we do 4 times 4 is 16, so we'll do 16 by 16. So 16, 16, and then the default value, we'll just leave it as null. It's fine. Yeah, 0. Okay, so we'll establish our game board is 16 by 16 cells. So it's 4 tiles by 4 tiles. That's how we're going to start that. Okay, and then what we also need to do, let's go back here. We don't need to worry about that. We do need to draw the terrain. Okay, so then what we need is over here. So we need to pass in. So we make the array, and then we need to pass the array in. Okay, and then this returns an array. So let's call this the board. Yeah, let's call it the board. That sounds like a good name. Board. B-O-A-R-D. And that's going to be an array of, it's going to be integers. So right here we'll do board equals this. So then we have that. And then what we need to do is we need to draw terrain from array. We need to pass in the board array. And then because it's our first tile, we're not going to pass it anything in. Okay. Whoops. Let's save the scene. Save scene as. Not tile maps, not assets. This is our game board itself. So let's call it here, core components game board. Save. So let's see what happens here. Okay. So it does not, oh, because it's a 2-dimensional array. So let's just leave this as that. Oh, right. There we go. Undefined array. Okay. Transiting null to a type of int. Okay. For data and size, data, we defined it right here. Why is this not going through data? Yeah, it should be a 2-dimensional array. So let's add here. Let's add a print error, and let's print out our board. Let's see what it looks like. Board. Okay, so what is this creating when we run this? F6 error. Okay, so it is putting out null value. Oh, okay, null value. We don't want to use null. We want to load it with 0. We want to load it with a floor. There we go. And now we have floor, and if we send it as a 1, we're going to load it. It's going to be all walls. Okay. So we'll set it in. Let's set it as 1 for walls for right now, because then it'll load up all the walls. And then what we need, so that creates that. Then we need to add the entrance tile into the array is our next step. So this is, let's put this down here. We'll take this out. So this sets up our board. We draw the board. But let's add in, we need to load the entrance tile. So we need to take the data from the entrance tile and then add it to this. So let's see, how do I do, let's go over to my other program. How did I do this before? We added a draw terrain from array. We don't want to necessarily rotate it. So we just did, and then we send it the cell data. So that's the array. Okay, so we send it the tile array and then the offset. Okay, so what we need to do here in our other one, there it is. Draw terrain from array. What we need to send here is our tile. So entrance. So we have the board, and then we need to add in draw, oops, not that. We need to add in our entrance dot cell data. Okay. Then that, okay. So what this should do, in theory, is we set this up This is all walls. And then, we print this out. This is going to be all walls. And then it's going to draw a terrain from here. It's going to add in this entrance cell. So our first 4x4 squares should be all floor. So let's find out if that's actually happening or not. Okay, so those did the 4, but it did not do all the walls. These should all be walls. Why is it not showing the walls? Oh, I know why. Okay, copy this, undo. Okay, do this. We need to draw the board. And then here we can add in that. There we go. Because what we're doing here is this is only changing the array for what is being passed to it. So right here, this is where we're establishing the main board. It's going to be 16 by 16. Here is where we're going to send it the new data to overwrite what's already there. So when we look at the game itself, if we look here, and this is, how can I zoom it? I'd never set the scaling. Project settings, general, window, scaling, canvas items, that works. Okay. So do this. Oh, project settings. Okay, so let's do, I don't know, 320 by 200 for right now. There we go. That works fine. Okay. And now if we make this here, we can see. Okay. So again, what we're doing is we're just drawing all 16 by 16 tiles. And then as we, in the first pass, and then when we send it just the new tile data, it goes back in and updates just that. And where we had this board, this is just kind of a 2D array of how big the board is. And this was just for drawing. This is changing this because the actual data is in the tile map. So we're not actually keeping track of the board, because right now this board array is still saying, hey, I am 16 by 16 grid of just walls. That's all I am right now. So we're not actually updating the board array that we're tracking. We're just drawing this. But let's just do one more thing. Let's bring in, I don't know, let's find a different tile. Let's bring in a, let's bring in a hallway. Sure, why not? So then let's do one more thing just to make sure that this is working. We draw a terrain, okay, entrance, but we're going to change this to, what would we call it, hallway? Hallway. But then we need to give it an offset. So this is going to be a vector 2i. So vector 2i, and we're going to offset it by, let's see here. It's x and y. So we want to offset the x like that. So this, if I'm thinking right, should draw our entrance tile and then draw a hallway tile right next to it. So let's find out. And yep, sure enough it did. And again, because we set this as terrain, this is automatically changing the tile types to match exactly what it needs to do. So we've got that working for us right now. Okay. Let's see, what else do we got here? So we've got the draw terrain, but what we still need to do is we still need to update our board. Do we need to keep track of the board? This is a good question. Do we need to keep track of the board? I don't think we do. Because what we're going to use, and this is my plan, is we're going to use our A-star navigation. So when we set up here, let's go back into our dungeon tile map here. And we take a look at our tile set. And whoops, we go paint, we go down to navigation. I'm going to go in here, we're going to just set up anything here on floor, we can navigate. Yep. I'll just tag the open door for now, but this will be all A-star navigation. So then when the player goes to select to move, it's going to look at the tile map and say, hey, where are valid squares? So that's going to make that nice and easy. So I don't think we actually need to track the game board itself. We just need this to draw. And the reason why I'm doing that is that gives us a, by default, the walls so that we can't walk past things. Yeah, okay, that works. Let's see, what else can we do? We can do, let's look at our design document here for hour 1. So we built the tool tile. We've had the map tile scene. We do not have the edge detection yet in, but we also need the hero. So it's kind of in the next thing. Tiles can be drawn from the stack and placed in position. Okay, so let's do that, and then we can, hopefully I can get that knocked out here in like 15 minutes. So we've got our game board, we've got our tile stack. So let's just add in, a couple of these. Let's see what we got. Let's add in a 4-way. Let's add in, sure, we'll add in another entrance. That's fine. We'll add in a far wall and a T intersection. Why not? There we go. Okay, so what we can do then is let's add in, let's get rid of this. We don't need this anymore. We don't need that. That was just for testing. To the board. Let's add in a button. Add child button. And let's just call it add tile. And let's put that in the bottom right. Boom. Nope. Oh, we need a, oops, add canvas layer. Put the button in there. There we go. Canvas layer, that's going to cover our control node. Control node will cover the entire screen. And then the button can go in there, and then the button can go in the bottom right. There we go. Okay, so then when we do this, we'll have the add tile down here. And let's just hook that up so we can do something real quick. This will just be for testing, so we'll just throw it in here for testing. We'll get on ready here, copy button, button.pressed, .connect. We'll call it add tile. Okay. Boom. Add tile. Okay, so when we add the tile, what we need to do is let's go into our tile stack. We're going to need this. We're going to need a var random tile. Yeah, random tile. And that's going to be int equals random I range. It's going to be 0 to tile stack.size. Is it going to be dot size or size minus 1? Okay. So then we'll pick a random. Oh, you know what? We don't even need to do that. We can just do. Totally forgot about this. Why am I doing that? We can just do var new tile equals tile stack dot random, pick random dot not instantiate dot because this is just going to be a resource. Do we have to instantiate or load the resource? I think we do. New tile equals load. There we go. So we'll load the new tile data, and then we will draw. We'll do this. New tile data from array. We'll pass in the new tile. Okay, and then we need to find its location. So right now, if we're going to do those, let's do a vector 2i, and then we're going to do. Let's track here. X. We'll just go across the screen for right now, just for testing purposes. So we'll do x comma 0. So x and y. So y is going to be 0. That will be x, and then let's do here. Let's do a var x equals 0. Okay. So then we will add tile. We'll do x plus equals 4. So then it adds 4 each time we go through, and then so it should just randomly select a new tile and add a new tile onto the map. So let's see what happens. Add the tile. Oops, what we do? Oh, because we did load. I need to do new tile equals that. Do I need the load, or can I just do that? Let's find out. Let's see this. Nope. Okay, can't do that. Argument 1 from object to an array. Okay. Oh, because I need to pass the array. I need to pass the new tile dot cell data. There we go. Yep. And then as we go across, we just keep drawing random tiles and add them in. So then if we do this again, we're going to get different tiles. Yep. Okay. Okay, cool. So we've got the system basically working, but now it's off screen. Okay. Let's see. What else do we need to do here? We need to go back to our board tracking. We need the edge detection. So we need in the add tile, we need, instead of doing x plus 4, we should have an x and y. So let's do x integer, y integer. Actually, you know, should we do a... Should we pass in the actual vector to I instead? That's a good question. Should we do that? It would be easier to do that. So the question is, okay, so when we do add tile, do we want to pass in where the player is and then calculate it? Or do we want to pass in let's just do x and y for right now. And then when we call the add tile up here, where's add tile? Let's add in a var y equals 0. Okay. And then we have the button, press button, add tile. And then here we can do x plus equals 4. And then just say if x equals, say, I don't know. If we did 16, actually, you know what? Let's put this down here below. So we'll add in the new tile. If x equals 1, 2, 3, 4, let's do 16. Okay. And then what we want to do is we want to set x equal to 0 and y to plus equals 1. Nope, not 1, 4. Okay. So now we can keep drawing. It should go right down along the line. So 1, 2. What did I do wrong? What did I mess up? Oh, because it's expecting those values. So let's just take these out for right now. Yeah, let's just take those out for right now. Okay, and now the next one should go down to the next line. It did. Oh, okay, because my order of operations, how I checked. Okay. Because I'm adding the x first. So let's do... Okay, so let's put this, let's cut this, let's put this here. Okay, and then let's start x off here as 0. We add the 4. Yeah, let's try this. There we go. There. Now we populated our entire game board. Okay. Let's see. But we're going to want to track, we don't want to track it this way. We're going to want to pass it in. This is for testing right now, though. Let's go back here and double check. Tiles can be drawn from the stack, which they are, and placed in position. So this is going to be the other thing that if we want to do a tile stack draw, Do we want to limit the quantity of tiles that we have and say we want to load in 47 tiles, whatever it's going to be. I use 47 because that's what D&D Adventures use. Do we want to limit the number of tiles so then we can always place also that random end tile in position, 8 through 12 or whatever it's going to be? Or do we want to just always keep... Well, we have weight. We have weight for the tiles. So if we base a draw on the weight, say, what's the percentage of this? How likely are we to draw each tile? I think we're getting overcomplicated. I think if we go back through, we do X number of tiles. We say there can only be 47. So when we draw a tile, what we need to do is we need to then pop it out. So whatever we draw, so where we have this new tile right here, pick random, we need to then pop that tile out. So then the question is, we can pop it, which takes out the first element in the array. But if we're doing a pick random, that's going to not work. You have to think on this one. This one I'm going to have to come back to. I'm going to have to decide which one we want to do for this. Okay. So we're at 5 hours in. I totally forgot to start my timer. I should probably go back over. Let's add this in. So let's go back in here. I forgot to start my timer. Projects. Sessions, add a timer. We started today at 10 a.m. Whoops. It is now, we're just going to call it 12:26. That's fine. Dungeon Fire tiles, task, tile maker, and tile stack. We'll call it tile stack. Okay. Save. Okay. So there's our time. So far we have spent just shy of 5 hours. We have 5 more hours in our first milestone left. Let's look at we have the build the tile maker tool. We built the dungeon tile map, so we can check that off. We can check off the tile maker tool. I don't want to check this off yet. And same with placement, because in placement, we also need the ability to rotate 90 degrees or 180 or whatever. So we need to add that still in. The tile stack draw, we got to think about that. Is it weighted? Is it... I think what I'm probably going to do in the end, for the sake of saving time and making sure we hit our milestones, we're going to just populate like 47 tiles. I'll give that a thought, though, in between sessions, because maybe it might be a lot easier if we just base it on weight, and then we have an even more unique run each time you go through, because then it's more random than just, here's 47 tiles, you're always playing with the same tiles. So, and then we have to add the edge detection. So what I'm probably going to do next time I stream, hopefully tomorrow, I don't know for certain yet, I'm going to add in, if we go back over here to like Godot, a way so then I can just click right here, like one of these squares, and say, let's explore. So it would be the equivalent of hitting this, but it's going to say, I need to explore this tile. I need to explore that tile. We have some edge cases of, what do we do for corners? That's going to be another thing that we're going to have to establish here in our scope, is how do we deal with corners? Because corners are going to be exposed to possibly 2 tiles, a left and a right, whatever, not left and a right, a down and a right, or an up and a right, stuff like that. So we need to think about how we want to do corners. Do we want to do it so the player can then choose which side he's going to explore, or do they both get explored? That could be interesting, especially with, if both get explored and they both have monsters pop up. It's like, oh, suddenly now we're overrun. It could be interesting. The problem with that also could be, though, then players will change how they play the game, and they're just like, I'm going to avoid the corner tiles all the time because it's not worth being exposed to two different tiles at once. In the I'm going to go back over here. In the graph paper gauntlet one, that was easy. I just went through and I went, oh, nope, we're not going to do anything. So I just blocked off all the corners. And so then there was no actual corners for that incident to happen. But that was a 3-hour game jam. That wasn't a full functioning game. So I got to put a little bit more thought into that. So I don't know exactly where we're going to land on that in the end. But let's take a look over here. So we have got still got to come back, figure out what we're going to do with decorations. We're going to do explorable edges most likely tomorrow. Let's make sure we didn't violate any of our stuff here. We haven't got to any of that. We have one tile set still. We have not changed anything. The nice part about what we're doing with this is because we're loading terrain data. If I were to come in and bring in, like say I wanted to shift this game to a sci-fi theme, I can bring in a sci-fi tile set. And as long as I build the terrains the same way, if terrain 0 is floor, excuse me, and terrain 1 is walls, great. Everything, I can still use the same tile editing data, and it'll just load the new graphics for the tile set. So we have a lot of flexibility in that. 4x4 tiles, it's a tile stack game. That might actually, right here, this might be where our defining thing is. Instead of using weighted, it's going to be a tile stack. So I think that might be it. No multiplayer, no customization. Yep, okay. So we haven't violated any of that stuff yet. And so we just need to do edge detection so that we can draw from the stack and be placed in position. So we might actually be very much ahead of our 10-hour milestone, because I think I can probably get most of the stuff implemented the next time I stream. I'm starting to lose my voice, so I'm going to take a break, get some food, stuff like that. But yeah, and then we still have one more thing we have to do over here for our tile. That is not the right one. Over here for our tile editor is we need a way to look at the tiles that we have already, so then we can click on them and edit them and do what we need to do with them. And then, you know what, we're going to get rid of that JSON inspector, but we're on track. We're probably going to be ahead of our 10-hour milestone, which is great. Because I have a feeling we're going to lose some time in these ones here. And I did build this with a lot of padding in the back end. I mean, right here is, hour 50 to 60 is playtesting and feature lock. I mean, that's the game's completed at that point in terms of ability and what you can do. And then we got fixes, balancing, audio, special effects, things along those lines, bug squishes and ship prep. So about 60 hours to build a full working game. So we're progressing. We're getting there. And if we start off and we have some extra buffer room, that's going to be great for us. We just have to make sure we stick to our milestones and we don't go over, especially when we get down into building the monsters right here in hours 30 and 40. When we start building those monsters and the abilities, I can definitely see some time sink happening in there. So we got to make sure that we don't lose ourselves there. But if you like what you're seeing and want to keep seeing me build this game, again, we're going for 100 hours, shipped game on Steam, going to be available. We're learning the entire process of building a game from design documents all the way up through the actual final publishing on Steam. We're not doing marketing in this series. I'm going to have a separate series where I focus on trying to figure out how to market the game. It may be this game. It may be Dungeon Fodder Tiles 2. I don't know yet. But marketing is a big thing. So it might be, that's probably going to be more in depth. But again, like it, subscribe, tune in. Until then, I will I'll see you all next time, and hopefully with less technical issues. So thanks, and bye.